Big update coming from Obsidian this week on Project Eternity, or should we call it Pillars of Eternity, the new name for the classic RPG Kickstarter project. And we get first up, we're talking with Obsidian's Josh Sawyer. He's here again. Thank you so much, Josh, for stopping by to talk about this awesome game.
Thank you for having me.
And you've been on the show a few times to talk about Project Eternity and a lot of the other projects you're working on. For those who maybe haven't heard that before, just a very quick background of Pillars of Eternity, what the game's about, and what it can offer.
Well, Pillars of Eternity is a retro-style but new game for PCs that is made in the style of the old, what were called Infinity Engine games. They are role-playing games in a fantasy setting that we've developed at Obsidian Entertainment. They're top-down, party-based, big emphasis on exploration and story and tactical combat. And they have a very strong nostalgic streak to them, but we're trying to make them feel updated for 2013 without losing the sort of charm that they had in the good old days.
And you guys are, of course, you're working on the project. You went through the Kickstarter process. You're still deep into that. And today, we got some big updates about Project Eternity, now known as Pillars of Eternity. What new details did us lucky backers find out today?
Well, the first is, of course, the official name of the project is Pillars of Eternity. And in the trailer, you can see how that's reflected not only in the logo, but just kind of the idea of the setting. The significance to the story and the world will become apparent as you play the game. I know that probably some people will have the question initially, well, like, why is it Pillars of Eternity? What does that have to do with anything?
That is on my my sheet right here.
And that's something where the relevance of it becomes more apparent as you play the game. Additionally, we have our backer site up now, which is a big deal. Obviously, we made this project through a Kickstarter project, and a lot of the backer rewards were things where people could specify they wanted to have a certain character or an item in the game, or they wanted to have an inn or an adventuring company, and that requires a lot of, sort of surveys. We need to find out from people, what do they want, how do they want things portrayed, and stuff like that. So we had to make a special backer portal to give players the opportunity to take all those surveys, manage their pledges, because the pledges can actually be kind of complicated. And that allows them to manage all that stuff on their own. So when we get their information, we get it in the most painless way possible. And then finally, we have a new trailer or a teaser trailer that's coming out, and it's the first, it shows the first sort of more or less action gameplay from the game. And we made this in the vein of the old Infinity Engine teaser trailers.
Yes.
We went back and looked at Icewind Dale and Baldur's Gate and those sort of games. And at least for our first look, we wanted to really emphasize atmosphere and the sort of action in the game. So we're hopeful that people will enjoy what they see.
It did kind of strike me as I was heading back 10 or 15 years, first looking at games when I did see that trailer. But
very much the intention.
Yeah, and it's great, too, because I'm thinking now when I first saw that, and now I'm going to have the opportunity to talk with the people who have made that trailer and maybe answer some of my speculation. Of course, very unlikely, but for those who have seen the trailer, the teaser rather, what do you show? What can you tell us about what is shown in that teaser?
Well, what we wanted to do is show a variety of environments. One of the things we've talked about a lot from the first Kickstarter trailer on is exploration as being a big part of the game. One of the reasons why we also have 2D environments is because we want to have these really beautiful environments for the player to explore. And for our teaser, we wanted to show a big variety. So you have crazy crystal caverns, and you have, a more traditional city to go through, and also wilderness areas and ruins and things like that. So we wanted to show off the diversity of those locations. And then also we wanted to show a lot of different characters in combat and moving around the world, so you got a sense of scale of the characters, and also just the kind of feel of combat in the sense of what you see your characters doing and visual effects and things like that. So you'll see people using traditional weapons. You'll see, our new weapons like guns, because guns are actually a thing in Project Eternity. But you'll see classics. You'll see fireballs going off.
Yeah, I think there's a fireball and then some body parts flying. I think, a little bit of that.
There are jibs, which are something that we talked about because until we went back, and replayed a lot of the Infinity Engine games, we had forgotten that jibs were kind of they were a thing in those games. They didn't come up that often, but when they happened, it was like, holy cow. So it was not too hard for us to put in, so we put in a jib system. And then you'll see other, spell effects and all sorts of creatures too. You'll see traditional creatures like spiders. We have animats, which are these sort of spirit armor guys that run around, and also some big crazy creatures like our Drake, which I think people are going to hopefully really enjoy because I like the Drake a lot.
Well, yeah, and just getting to actually see a little bit of in-game of Pillars of Eternity, visually, it is, of course, it harkens back to that style of gaming, but I think it has some really beautiful, high-fidelity, sort of real fluid images and gameplay that perhaps a lot of people that hear the title that, it's an old-school game, that it's going to look exactly like these sort of old titles, are mistaken about, because again, it's a very high quality, and it matches up enough that it doesn't seem antiquated, I guess. Is that fair to say? Yeah,
I mean, we even though it feels kind of dumb to say $4 million isn't a lot of money, but for making a game in 2013 or now going into 2014, $4 million isn't a ton of money. So we have to be very smart about the level of visual fidelity that we aim for. But we're very aware of the view that people have of the world and how much is really dependent on the total environment and the atmosphere and things like that. So the old games, they look really beautiful, but at the same time, their animations were sprite animations. They were pretty limited in how they played and how they looked. So now with these higher res environments that are rendered out with higher fidelity, even with the sort of animations that we have in there, which if you were to look at them super duper closely, they're not doing anything technologically crazy, but they are very smooth and they look really nice, and I think they work well for the style of game. So I think we've done a good job of balancing the sort of level of fidelity and really trying to capture the atmosphere of the old games.
So just looking through the teaser as you're talking there, of course, we see, I have the opportunity, so I might as well, a lot of different environments like you talked about, from the larger towns, more cavernous environments. In terms of some of the actual classes that are teased there, can you tell us at all about what character classes were made available in the teaser? Is there any kind of info you can give on that?
Well, I'm trying to think of the sort of spells that we specifically show off are mostly druid and wizard spells. I think there are a few priest spells as well, but we pretty much stuck to the biggest and the flashiest things. I think as we go on and we do larger trailers and things like that, we're going to be showing off more of the martial classes and their their abilities and their cool things, like what the paladin can do, what the barbarian can do, what the rogue can do, what the fighter can do. For our first trailer, I think we all talked about, well, what are the things that we really want to show off, because this is the first look at the game. And we remembered thinking back to Baldur's Gate, the first non-interactive demo and even the first trailer. We remember when we saw a lightning bolt come down from the sky, when we saw a fireball go off, that was a big deal for us. And so we wanted to make sure that we showed off those classic sort of things, because there's plenty of time left to show all the other stuff. But because, again, we're sort of trying to capture this old school feeling, we wanted to make sure that a lot of the classics were there. So that's why we went with the kind of the druid and the wizard and the priest stuff.
Yeah, visually, again, stunning, and takes me back. So thank you very, very much for that. In terms of the new info that's coming out, is there any sort of tidbits, as a backer, of course, always asking for more, are there any sort of tidbits of new information on the narrative that you could share?
Nope.
Nope, straight up nope. So there you go. This is, again, we got to see the in-game. That should be enough for us. And of course, that's not all we got. The backer portals, looking through the info there. If we spent money on a lot of those goodies, now we finally get the chance to give you a lot of our ideas and a lot of that information, right?
Yeah, that's very important. I mean, that's the thing that took us the longest time to do all this stuff. I mean, obviously the teaser took quite a while to put together because it's a lot of areas and a lot of things going on. But more importantly, it was the backer portal. We have close to 80,000. I mean, if you include PayPal, it's probably way over 80,000 backers. And there's a lot of information to manage, a lot of people backed a lot of stuff, and also due to how people could do add-ons and things like that, we really wanted to make sure that we didn't mess things up. So when someone goes to the site, we want to make sure that they are able to get, specify exactly what they want, whatever combination of normal stuff and add-ons and things that they pledged. We want to make sure that they get it. And we also have stuff for all the custom-made stuff, like if you backed to get a legendary item or something like that, then we have a whole thing where you could enter your idea of the description and the sort of abilities it has, and you can specify what color it is and all that sort of stuff from drop-down menu. So it's all sort of, I don't want to say automated for you, but it's done in a very straightforward way. So hopefully it's very smooth and easy for everyone, including us on the back end, because when we get your stuff, we want to be able to process it easily.
Absolutely. Now, of course, with this backer portal, you have the option to, get those add-ons, increase pledges from what I'm looking at here. Where would that additional funding go to at this point?
Well, that's a good question. There are a few things that we know that people have asked for a lot. We've been very strict about budgeting this to exactly what people backed. It's a really big game.
Yeah.
People hit a lot of stretch goals, and this game could be a lot of things. It could be even bigger than it is, but we've, again, $4 million can actually run out fairly quickly.
Yeah.
So, like we've always said, whenever we're thinking about features or things to add or things to cut, we've always said, okay, these features are things that very specifically people backed during the campaign. They absolutely have to be done. Crafting absolutely has to be done. 11 classes absolutely have to be done. But that said, there are things that we know people have, they still ask for. People still want more areas, especially when it comes to wilderness areas and exploration. That's something that a lot of people really enjoy because it makes the world feel really big. It makes it feel like all sorts of crazy stuff can happen out in the wilderness. But of course, those areas are the ones that are usually the least plot critical. So from our perspective, they're not necessarily the most important, but a lot of people have asked for them. And the other thing that a lot of people have asked for is companions, more companions, I should say, because during the Kickstarter campaign, people pledged for a total of 8 companions. 8 companions take a bit of time to make. That said, 8 is still less than 11, and 11 is the number of classes, so that means there's not as many companions as there are classes. So we know people want more of that stuff, but time will have to tell if people are continuing to pledge, money above and beyond that, where that money should go.
And of course, you'll keep us backers apprised, if you are getting more. Yeah, that, we'll finally get those extra companions. Not finally, but it'd be great, of course, to get extra companions in that way. So yeah, just, looking through the backer portals, there's different ways you can add in your information. In terms of the development of the game, where would you say you're on this project? Of course, you could always use more time to finish up what you need to, but in comparison to other titles you've worked on, where would you say the game's at in terms of development?
We're right in the middle of production.
Right in the middle, okay.
Yeah, so we got out of pre-production quite a while ago, and, we finished Defiance Bay, which is our first big city. We actually just, on Friday, wrapped up, barring a couple of last-minute touches, we finished the Endless Paths of Adnua. For those who have forgotten, during our Kickstarter campaign, backers pledged money and Facebook likes and things like that to get a mega dungeon, get levels in a mega dungeon. And it's a 15-level mega dungeon, and we got it all done. It's really, it's hard to really say, and not every level is gargantuan. Some levels are small, some levels are really big, but a 15-level dungeon is really big. So we finally finished modeling all that out and everything. We have one of our other villages and a number of other dungeons. So we're right in the middle of production. We're getting ready to start on our second big city. Everyone's working at a really nice pace. We're doing little revisions to class mechanics and things like that as we've had time to play test things and getting in more advanced AI for, enemies and stuff like that. But, everything's going at a pretty solid pace, and it feels pretty good. Like, we don't feel like we have obstacles other than it's a big game. So we're trucking, though, and so thankfully we haven't had many holdups on the development side.
Absolutely. And again, you and I have talked a lot in the past about the wonderful opportunity that Kickstarter brings, to game development for everyone involved. I have so many clips of you saying this is amazing, this is the greatest thing ever. We are now in the middle of production of Pillars of Eternity. Has your opinion, have there been any sort of pitfalls, I guess, with the Kickstarter method of game funding that you didn't think and you couldn't possibly have known when you first started the game?
I wouldn't say so. I mean, I think a lot of us at Obsidian have said previously that we really did not expect the Kickstarter to explode as it did, meaning like it was fully funded at $1.1 million within, I think 25 hours or 26 hours. And so we had very loosely talked about things like stretch goals, but I think probably, a lot of us have said in retrospect, it probably would have been better to really plot out all the stretch goals ahead of time. Mm-hmm. But that said, even though it has been daunting at sometimes to say 2 big cities or 15 levels of a mega dungeon, what does that really mean? We've always been able to handle it. As far as fan feedback and stuff like that, I personally, I think it's kind of weird when people talk about, meaning other developers talk about the problems they've had with dealing with crowdfunding and stuff like that. Maybe it's because when I worked at Black Isle, I was the Black Isle webmaster and I managed the community forums. But I and a lot of other people at Obsidian have a lot of experience dealing with the fans and just kind of being upfront and straightforward with them. And we know that not everyone is going to be happy with things, and certainly we don't try to aggravate people, but we try to engage them, we try to read what they talk about, and so the Kickstarter type experience where the backers have a more vocal role, they aren't really that much more vocal than, not dramatically more vocal than they have been on something like Fallout New Vegas or Neverwinter Nights 2, which had a huge community, or even the Icewind Dale games or Baldur's Gate. So a lot of them are the same folks, literally they're the same people that I've been talking to since the Black Isle days. So that experience, I think, has gone very well. Of course, there are still people that, aren't going to be happy with some of the decisions we make, and we try to find, if we can reasonably accommodate them, then we do so, but we understand that not everyone's going to be super thrilled. So overall, I'd say the process has still been really great.
Would you say that right now, now that you have the backer portals open and us backers will finally get the chance to give you this sort of information and kind of work through the technical aspects, is that another hurdle that is always a part of the Kickstarter model that you're able to, fully provide the services that you said you would? It seems like a pretty daunting task considering how many backers you have.
Yeah, obviously it'll remain to be seen. Mm-hmm. We do want there to be a back and forth. Our assumption is that most of the people who backed, they want the whole experience to be good. And so if we want to guide people, if I want to make Captain Nutsy and he's got a machine gun or something, we're like, okay, hold on, man, this is not quite right for the setting or the game or whatever. We want to work back and forth with people to accommodate them, but we also want to make a world that feels complete and whole and doesn't have jarring nutty things in it. The technical side of it, we hope that we've tested it enough that it provides a reliable means of people getting their info to us. And after that point, it's mostly just about doing the back and forth with people to make sure that they're happy and we feel it's going to work within the game, and then implementing the stuff. But thankfully on our end, Tim Kane has done a great job of implementing a lot of the item system stuff and the custom item customization. So a lot of that stuff should go relatively smoothly when it comes to implementation.
So there you go. We have our first, well, not our first, but a very big point in the development cycle of now Pillars of Eternity. Josh Sawyer here to talk all about it. When can we look forward, I guess, to our next big push of info for us loyal backers?
Oh, man, I don't know if I...
Don't know about that one?
I can't go on record for that yet. I don't know. But no, we, in the next few months, we want to start putting together more information, more concrete information about classes and races and things like that. We still want to do updates, about once every 2 weeks, and we want to start giving out more concrete details. We've talked a lot about basic ideas for class mechanics, basic ideas for a lot of stuff, but we're at the point now where we feel we can give out more concrete definitions of these things because we're pretty comfortable with where they are. So I don't know when the next big crazy thing is going to be, but after this point, after this launch, we're going to continue giving out details, and these details are probably going to be a little more fleshed out than they have in the past.
Well, there you have it, folks. Again, Pillars of Eternity, formerly known as Project Eternity. Josh Sawyer from Obsidian Entertainment joining us on VGS. Thank you very much, Mr. Sawyer.
And thank you, as always.
As always, you can pledge, upgrade if you want. Check out the teaser. You should have already upgraded. If you're listening to VGS, Andy Burkowski's talking to you right now. You already have backed. Make sure you check it out. Again, Andy Burkowski, VGS.
Rock, we